Hey, good morning to everyone.
Morning, Rinpoche.
I was thinking earlier to ask yourself the question, have you at least smiled today in this early part of the day? Have you at least smiled? Maybe you were so moved to find something to laugh at. And the greatest laughing at is ourselves. So did you laugh at yourself today? Or have you already begun to engage in the minutia of seriousness? So again, just sort of being mindful and aware of my own thoughts this morning, running around, dealing with the technology, etc., and going, it really is quite absurd, isn't it? You only can just sort of laugh at the whole situation that we have created. And we're so fond of creating difficulty. Why is it so difficult? But that's a whole nother subject. Anyway, this very morning, which is so precious to have awakened from the slumber of ignorant sleep last night, dreaming of madness of how things possibly could be. But to pay homage to the thought of enlightenment and the quality of enlightenment that resides all pervasively in all sentient beings at this very moment. It is the enlightened quality that we pay homage to. That is the essence of all of the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. As reading last night in the training of the Bodhisattva, have we truly awakened the desire to achieve and to recognize this ever-present enlightened quality that exists within us at this very moment? Or do we continue to flounder about in the darkness of the shadows, obscuring our own treasures and going about the land like a pauper with our hand out and begging for a treasure which we're carrying in our pockets? May we all recognize this enlightened quality for the benefit of all sentient beings at this very moment. Take a breath in, please. Releasing out. Settling onto our seat. Releasing in our bones. Releasing our muscle groups downward as though they're suspended from the bones. Our mental focus goes to the navel center, or where the three junctions intersect. Then release the air in the upper quadrant of the thoracic area. Sink down and have the feeling of your child's abdomen. So the round fullness of the belly of the baby. From the base of the spine, release and awaken the sleeping serpent or dragon that rises up through the silvery blue cord of the spinal cord itself. So imagine within the spine, the silvery blue cord, and the energetic charge like a serpent awakens and rises all the way up to the crown chakra. Then releasing in the heart space, focus on that area with the intention that if one can awaken this heart space center, that in turn, it will activate the throat and the head center, and the navel and the pelvic center. So someone just turned on the lights. You can imagine now you're like a Christmas tree, white, red, blue, yellow, green, all the lights are on. And then I'm imagining my lights now, you know, sometimes they blink like this. So the lights are blinking intermittently, radiating out loving kindness and compassion, joyousness and equanimity first for the benefit of all sentient beings. So I would say, oh, what do I have to say? I have nothing to say. Just mumbling parrot standing in front of the Buddha doing prostrations just a few moments ago. Please impart your wisdom, your knowledge, and your grace to speak for all of those who may intend to lend an ear, and even perhaps put it into practice every day from now on until. So this is my wish to you. And again, I'll say, I hope if you haven't smiled, perhaps before this session is finished, you will find some absurdity that I may have said that you will find amusing and you will smile at, I hope. Take a breath in again and just release for a moment, just settling. Let the attachment to worldly concerns fall away. The worldly concerns. Rich or poor, I have some money today, I don't have any money today. I have a nice place to stay in today. I'm living with the rats today. They praise me today, they defame me today. I am in great health today. I am sick and I am dying today. Let go of the worldly concerns. Engage in the practice of not being detached. Detachment serves no purpose to anyone. Let's say we are accountable for the actions that we engage in, but we are also accountable for the actions that we should have engaged in but did not. So this is karma, we can think of it in this way. So relinquish the attachment, non-attachment, not being detached. As I was saying, detachment does not move us forward. We become quite complacent, all right? So we are involved, but we do so with the attitude of non-attachment to who is involved. What am I doing and what is the outcome? Obviously, yes, we go with the proper motivation and the intent that may all of our actions be of benefit to others and the merit obtained be that through the practice of following the path of truth, following the path that will lead us to realization, following the path of realization, hopefully that will bring about the full enlightenment within this lifetime. Reading about Guru Rinpoche. So from the Buddha's time, in that era of teaching, maybe it took a vast number of even eons or lifetimes to arrive at the recognition of one's own realized or enlightened quality. But in the time of our Buddha, the Buddha of our time is that of Guru Rinpoche. So I'll talk a little bit more about this next week. So from Guru Rinpoche's perspective, the potentiality of arriving at this realization is ever present at this very moment, like in the Zen tradition. Even Gyaltsen Lingpa says, in the moment of looking is the moment of knowing, so to paraphrase. So he's saying, you look and recognize this enlightened quality right now, like Talopa, when he says to relax, to rest right now. Why? And why does Gyaltsen Ling say, in the moment of looking is the moment of recognizing? Because this quality is already there. It is not something that you're going to manufacture or something that you're going to make. But it does come down to whether one has the awakening mind, the awakened mind that brings them to that preface. We look and you can see this view. So the view is apprehended. One takes in the vista and has faith and a trust and a devotion and a conviction that this is it, as Toko Rinpoche would say. You have to decide, this is it. If you decide this is it after it has been shown or directed in which way to look, Then, having decided this is it, then you must practice. And the practice must be a continuous, continuum of practice, not a little bit here, a little bit there, all the time practicing, but not pushing, just gentle. Rinpoche says gentle, easy, easy. So by this continued practice, one obtains confidence. You become confident. We're not constantly, well, maybe it's in the next book. Maybe it's in the next seminar. Maybe it's in the next podcast. I'm just amusing myself. But you have stability. Once you have stability, then you have this confidence, I should say. You have confidence, then you have stability. Once you have stability, then your practice can really elevate, advance like that. Oh, I have to digress just for a moment. I won't call any names, but the power of a glance, and in that moment, the exchange. The two look at each other, and the hands touch gently, and the head sways with an angle, and the body moves side to side. That is a precious moment to see. Those two can never be divided. In the moment we see, oh, the exchange of love comes to be. Oh, we wish we all had that, don't we? Anyway, I could not help because I saw the moment. Yeah, you know who I'm talking to. So I told you, laughing and smiling. Don't take so serious. I should have stayed in my seat. I probably will be laughing all day to you, but good, because the world has become so serious. Seriously killing each other, seriously hating each other, seriously divided from each other, seriously prejudiced against each other, seriously hating each other. I wish they could be like those two, seriously love each other with levity and joy and happiness. Why is it so difficult? I do the wash the dishes is my meditation. My three dishes, the bowl, the spoon, and the cup. But I said to myself, pay attention. Be present in the moment. Be present in this precious moment, because who will say it may come again? So be precious in the moment of the exchange. Who's to say it will come again? So again, just some random thoughts to start off today. We'll do again, Drukna Randro today. Again, thinking last night, we need more Drukna Randros. We need more Chinrezi, standing or seating, but this quality of the compassionate nature, kindness, love, equanimity, and joyousness. And then also going back to this quality of attachment. What are you attached to? So as we begin, let's go ahead and start with first to cleanse and purify the body, speech, and mind. Cleanse and purify obscurations and hindrance, defilements, negative karmic action, and disease born of mind. To cleanse and purify ignorance, desire, anger, lust, greed, and pride, and arrogance. And I say this to me, I mean no offense to anyone, and stupidity, because sometimes I know it's not correct, but you go, oh my goodness, so stupid. And then I laugh. So I use that last one for me. Perhaps you can find a more appropriate word for you. But when we're doing long Vajrasattva, again, you visualize where does Dorje Sampa come from, or Vajrasattva arise from? From within the nature of one's own mind. It is indivisible, this quality from one's own mind. At a maybe depth psychology level, is that you arouse from your primordial ground realized self. Your higher nature forgives or purifies that lower aspect, if we wanted to go into dividing up subconscious, unconscious, etc., blah, blah, blah. But simply, I have a symbol or a designated point that I refer to that has arisen from myself that reflects back to me, which I call self, to cleanse and purify. So as you're doing the recitation, again, slowly, your body is transforming into the purity or a reflection of the deity. If you know the long Vajrasattva, then no problem. If you don't know the whole, then you can just go Om Vajrasattva Om. And if that is too much, then you can just go ah, 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 ah. Either way, that one is employing this concept to cleanse and purify. Draw that breath in again, please. Breathing out as you have released through the body. And again, let's go back to that just a moment to recant. The weight and the strength has gone down. The mind and the breath has settled. The sleeping dragon serpent has arisen and awakened to the crown chakra. One has activated the center chakra so that the upper two and the lower two are activated. All of the gates, which refer to as the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder, the ankle, the knee, and the hip joint, 7, 8 vertebrae, then the hinge joint of the jaw, and the occipital space of the cranial area, all of those have been activated. All of the portals, in an instant, of the feet, of the hands, and the heart, open like flowers. Then of the genital and the anal area, portals open. The portal of the mouth, nose, ears, eyes, and the frontanel, aperture of Brahman, also open. And imagine these portals as though space was interfacing with space. The energetics or the charge, the energy and the spaciality of our own perceived physicality interfaces with that of the space in which we perceive. But what if you release the concept of an inner and an outer space, etc.? Having set things in place like that, then from the intrinsic emptiness of one's own being arises the deity, the Buddha of the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities, and the Buddha of purity. And then as we're doing the recitation, not only oneself, but others are also being cleansed or being blessed and cleansed and purified, transformed, transcended, and liberation. But all of phenomena that this, whatever is perceived through the 6 gates of perception, whether it is of an existence or non-existence, doesn't matter. Things are as they are, and we know the nature of them. But the whole domain of perception becomes the mandala of the deity. Therefore, we can practice, irregardless of how dark it may seem, that darkness is permeated with purity, its purity. In essence, it is also the mandala. So we see everything with a certain sameness as it is. Visualize, and then we'll do 21 recitations. Beginning. Samaya Manu Palaya Badrazadra Deno Sudogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Handarata Mabova Salvaziri Mebrea Hamazu Zetum Sirum Guru Ahaho Bhagavan Sawadata Badramani Muzova Ziboa Mahasamaya Sadua Badrazadu Samaya Manu Palaya Badrazadra Deno Badi Mabova Zugaya Mabova Zugaya Mabova Handarata Sala City Mebrea Zara Namazume Zetum Sirum Guru Ahaho Bhagavan Sada Tata Gata Badra my name was Oven de Boa Samaya Sadua Badrazadu Samaya Manu Valaya Badrazadu the Duru Mabua, Sudokaya Mabua, Zubokaya Mabua, Handarata Mabua, Zawazidi Mebrea Zara Namazume, Sedum Sirum Guru, Ha Ha Ho, Bhagavan, Zawada Gata Badra, my name was Oven de Boa Mahasamaya Sadua, Badrazadu, Manu Balaya, Badrazadu, Nova, the Duru Mabua, Zudokaya Mabua, Zubokaya Mabua, Handarata Mabua, Zawazidi Mebrea Zara Namazume. Sedum Sirum Guru, Ha Ha Ho, Satam Sirum Guru, ha 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 ho, Bhagavan, Savada Gata Badru, Mani Muzavan, the Bava Mahazamaya, the Wadum Badazata Samayamanu. Badru Zadru, then about the Mabova, Sudo, Kayamabova, Kayamabova, Hanaratu, Mabova, Zawazidi, Mibray, the Zara, Namazume. Satam Sirum Guru, ha 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 ho, Bhagavan, Savada Gata Badru, Mani Muzavan, the Bava Mahazamaya, the Wadum Badazata. Manobala Yabadru Zadun, and about the Mabova, Sudo, Kayamabova, Kayamabova, Hanaratu, Mabova, Zawazidi, Mibray, the Zara, Namazume. Satum Sirum Guru, ha 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 ho, Bhagavan, Savada Gata Badru, Mani Muzavan, the Bava Mahazamaya, the Wadum Badazata Samaya, Manobala. Badru Zadun, and about the Mabova, Kayamabova, Kayamabova, Hanaratu, Mabova, Zawazidi, Mibray, the Zara, Namazume. Ah, who Bhagavan Savada Gata Badru, Mani Muzavan, the Bava Mahazamaya, the Wadum Badazata Samaya, Manobala Yabadru, Nova. Do Mavoa, Zudogaya Mavoa, Zudogaya Mavoa, Anarada Mavoa, the Medrea, the Zaragama, the Medicine, ah, who Bhagavan Savada Gata Badru, Mani Muzavan, the Bava Mahazamaya, the Dua. Umbada Zata Samaya, Manobala Yabadru, the Nova, the Mavoa, Zudogaya Mavoa, Zudogaya Mavoa, Anarada Mavoa. Zawaziri Mebrea, the Zaragam, the Zetum Serenduru, Bhagavan. Sada Dada Gada Badruma Nemuzavan, the Bava Mahasamaya, the Wadum Badazata Samaya, Manokalaya, Badruzadrudanova, the Nova, the Lokayam, the Nova, Handaradum, the Bova, was it in the Brea, the Zaragam. Sadum Zedum Guru Hum, ha ha ha, Bhagavan Savada Gada Badruma Nemuzavan, the Bava Mahasamaya, the Wadum Badazata Samaya, Manu. Badruzadrudanova, the Nova, the Lokayam, the Bova, the Lokayam, the Bova, Handaradum. Siddham Siddham Guru Hum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Savada Gata Badru Mani Muzavan the Bhavana Samaya the Warum Badazatu Manabala Yabadru Zaru and Obadu the Mabova Gaya Mabova Gaya Mabova Hanaratu Mabova over the Demi. Sudhum Siddham Siddham Guru Hum Ha Ha Ho Bhagavan Savada Gata Badru Mani Muzavan the Bhavana Samaya the Warum Badazatu Samaya Manabala Yabadu. The Mabova Gaya Mabova Gaya Mabova Hanaratu Mabova over the Demi the Zara Sada Gata Badru Mani Muzavan the Bhavana Samaya Sudo Gaya Mabova Gaya Mabova Hanaratu Mabova over the Demi the Zara Namazume Tetum Sirum Guru. Ah, Bhagavan Savada Gata Badru Mani Muzavan the Bava Mahazamaya the Zumbadu Zadu Samaya Manova, the Yabadru Zadu Denova, the Mabova, Sudokaya Mabova, Sudokaya Mabova. Anaratu Mabova, was the Mebrea, the Zara Namazume. Sudum Sudum Guru Hum, Bhagavan Savada Gata Badru Mani Muzavan the Bava Mahazamaya the Wadum Badazata Samaya Manu. Badru Zadu Denova, the Mabova, Sudokaya Mabova, Sudokaya Mabova, Anaratu Mabova, was the Mebrea, the Zara Namazume. Savada Gata Badru Mani Muzavan the Bava Mahazamaya the Wadum Badazata Samaya Manova. Sudogaya Mabova, Sudogaya Mabova, Anaratu Mabova. Zawa Siri Mebrea, the Zara Namazume, the Dunzim Guru. Ah, Bhagavan Savada Gata Badru Mani Muzavan the Bava. Saduadum Badazata Samaya Manova, Yabadru Zadanova, Mabova, Sudokaya Mabova, Sudokaya Mabova, Anaratu Mabova, Zawa Siri Mebrea, the Zara Namazume. Sudum Sirum Guru Hum, ha ha ha, Bhagavan Savada Gata Badru Mani Muzavan the Bava Mahazamaya the Wadum Badazata Samaya Manova, Yabadru. Do Mabova, Zudogaya Mabova, Zudogaya Mabova, Hanaratu Mabova, Zawa Siri Mebrea, the Zara Namazume. Zedum Sirum Guru Hum, ha ha ha, Bhagavan. Sada Gata Badru Mani Muzavan the Bava Mahazamaya the Wadum Badazata Samaya Manova. Badru Zaru Denova, do Mabova, Zudogaya Mabova, Zudogaya Mabova. So perhaps when the Buddha was giving one teaching, and he merely held up a flower, and there's one great disciple who immediately realized. So I'm only holding up a piece of white paper, and sometimes in this my PowerPoint, this is my PowerPoint presentation, modern day language. Anyway, the white paper I'm holding up is, I want you to visualize now, oh, my head has the purity like this of the white paper, unblemished, unmarked, clean. And so does my throat, my chest, my waist, my legs, my feet, my arms, my hands. But maybe most important of all, my heart, my mind. Rest for a moment. 7-point position of Arachana. Resting in the blessings of purity. Not the purity that has come from some unknown source in space, but the purity that lies within each and every one of us at the core. Again, I keep going back to the purity and the innocence of a child. That purity is still there, even though it may be suppressed and buried, and these days even trampled upon. Recognize and give yourself permission to consider your own purity. Gently breathing out. So as we continue, you have your Dorje. I want you to take your Dorje and put it in front of you. As I think I was talking to someone about it is training. As I was reading last night, the development and the training of the Bodhisattva, the training of aspiration and application, the training of awakening and coming to the enlightened mind, the enlightened thought, the altruistic or Bodhi mind or Bodhi thought, is that I will engage in the practice of Buddhadharma to fully realize the intrinsic enlightened nature that lies within each and every sentient being, including myself. That I do this for the benefit of others and for the benefit of self. And these are all very nice concepts for us to say, but they must be ingrained and become part of you, like your breath in and your breath out. If we do not have the ability to focus our mind, and now, these days, even before this situation, we were always pulled and tossed and thrown and dashed about, trying to find some respite, some happiness and peace and joy. And maybe we can see now that we've only been fooling ourselves with this covering up all that we have swept under our own rug for perhaps many, many eons. And now it is the time of awakening. In one way, it is a blessing because it is a time of awakening. And awakening also meaning we see things as they are. And we're seeing ourselves in all of our, we could say, our kindness, but we're also seeing ourselves, unfortunately, in our meanness. But kindness and meanness both also are of the same aspect. Intrinsically at the core, they are empty, each expressing itself in a different way. In the awakened mind, we can choose which way to express. It doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden we are pure and we have no more obscurations, hindrances, developments, etc. It's just that, like Akun Rinpoche, his book, this book, Taming the Tiger. So we must have a desire to tame the tiger so we can ride. And now the tiger is running wild and it is consuming us. So now we must awaken and make a decision. So training the mind. In Shine or Shamatha, there are 9 phases. So we have chosen the object. So it says, place the mind to the object first. And really, to assume the 7-point position of Aruchana, with the body and the mind, where the body, mind, and the breath, they're all coming together in unity. So I want you to take the position and focus your eye and focus your mind on your Dorje. So this will be the object of placement. We place. And having placed our mind on this Dorje, hold it there gently. And your mind thoughts, it will run away, you gently just bring it back. Don't follow the thought, but come back to just focusing and concentrating on this Dorje. And I want to do this for about 10 minutes. The first part, place the mind to the object, or set the mind to the object. Then it says, when the mind runs away, reset the mind to the object. When it runs away, again and again, continuously set the mind to the object. And then the fourth, discipline the mind to the object. So we want to work on at least getting those 4 aspects which we could identify. Take a breath in, breathing out, and set your mind to the object. As you're holding your mind to the object, do not conceptualize about what type of Dorje, what color, its size, its line, form, shape, and color and texture. We don't designate or define the object through conceptuality in that way. We merely focus our mind resting upon the object. Practice. Whatever thoughts, concepts, sensations, etc. are arising, dwelling, and ceasing. Like clouds in the sky, they come and go. Your mind remains with the object of placement. If some thought arises about the Dorje, you let it go. Whatever the thought, we don't suppress, analyze, or follow. Rest your mind upon the object. And once again, if your mind has strayed away, bring it back and place it upon the object. Again, you're being vigilant. If your mind has strayed away with many thoughts coming and going, leave them to their own activity. We come back to the object and rest our mind upon it. Once again, check, reset, continuously set. Discipline, thoroughly discipline the mind to the object. Gently breathe out and remove the object from your line of sight. And as you continue to sit now, we're not concerned with holding our mind or letting it go. We're not focusing on the body or the breath or the thoughts, how they come and go. When calm abiding or shine arises, its partner, which has already been there but unseen, clarity, baton. Recognize the innate clarity that appears to have arisen but was always present. Then, with the awareness of what arises, dwell and ceases within that clarity. It's like the smoke arising from the incense. And as the smoke rises into the space, just as quickly it dissipates. Leave whatever is arising, dwelling, and ceasing alone. Rest in the recognition of the clarity. But do not conceptualize about this recognition of clarity. It is just being present in that moment of wakefulness. The title of a text by Mipon Rinpoche, Calm and Clear, in Unity, Rest. And again, just breathing out. So from this place of calm, abiding, clarity, or direct insight, the eyes look out, the spaciousness of seeing. Awareness, mindful of the open and vastness of hearing. To connect to the sensory consciousness of the nose and the consciousness of the tongue and the consciousness of your total body, its tactile sensations, and the consciousness of awareness, the knowingness of awareness, not the objects which are apprehended by the six gates of perception. But we are mindful and aware of the capacity of sensory perception. Rest in this state of open awareness. And in that awareness, yes, line, form, shape, color, texture, we are aware of, but not fixating upon it. Allow it to be. That old phrase, let it be, let go. So let be, let go. As it is, its intrinsic nature is empty. At an ultimate level, at a relative level, it exists through cause, circumstances, and conditions. On the double edge of the razor or the sword we walk, the knowingness of the physical, we could say, using this word, and the metaphysical aspect of the realities which we perceive and which we create ourselves. Rest in that, take a breath, breathing out. So from that state, again, we could say the ground, we began the journey. The awakened thought, the altruistic thought, the enlightened quality of all bodhisattvas must begin to take refuge and to arouse the altruistic thought of Bodhi mind, enlightened mind. So thus we can say, most precious Guru, please think of me. Bestow the blessings that will free and ripen my mind, so that I may realize as quickly as possible for the benefit of all sentient beings. Most precious Guru, please think of me. Bestow the blessings that will free and ripen my mind, so that I may realize as quickly as possible for the benefit of all sentient beings. Most precious Guru, please think of me. Bestow the blessings that will free and ripen my mind, so that I may realize as quickly as possible for the benefit of all sentient beings. You should visualize Dzogchen from the topmost aspect, Kunduzungpo, all the way down to the present day masters, our teachers, and all of their entourage gathered around. If you have Dzogchen, you should be able to just, the moment you think of it, it appears like the fish jumping out of the water. And in that, again, with the faith, with the devotion, and with the trust, we take refuge. Namo Lama Lagam Zujo, Zenga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo. Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. This is Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. Lama Lagam Zujo, Senga Lagam Zujo, Jo Lagam Zujo, Genan Lagam Zujo. And I say to myself, I have taken refuge in the Lama, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. As I have asked, please bestow your blessings quickly. Why? So I can be of greater benefit to all sentient beings. Always. So I can be of greater benefit. Looking at one star last night, I am not separate from that star from which I view in the sky upon which I look. Grant your blessings, make use of me, guide me. impart your wisdom and your knowledge. May I be your servant. In which way shall I go? I surrender to you. I'm talking to the universe, but I am part of that universe into whom I speak. Therefore, it is though I am speaking to myself. Having now, through this lines, again, it is the awakening of the altruistic thought, the enlightened attitude, awakening of the enlightened mind, not just for the benefit of self, but for the benefit of all sentient beings. We should have this in mind. Then this training. So we're training in the way of the Bodhisattva, training in that which brings us to the full realization of our own intrinsic Buddha nature. And one text I said, it reads, and you can find, all Buddhists must come from that of the Bodhisattva, and all Bodhisattvas must come from the awakened mind of the altruistic thought to engage in the following of Dharma, the truth, the path, the way, for the benefit of all sentient beings. Is this what you say to yourself? Is this what you ingest into the marrow of your bones? When you woke up this morning and put your feet upon the floor, was that one of your thoughts? This day I will be kind and compassionate and loving, as you've heard me say, more so than I was the day before, for the benefit of all sentient beings. May this be my thrust that carries me through this day. So now I want you to reaffirm, to restate that Bodhisattva doesn't necessarily mean someone or something of some ancient time before. The activity of the Bodhisattva is essential at this time. One individual, Mama Kazi Rinpoche would say, one individual can arrive at this awakened state. Therefore, it will be like the match that sets off the whole box. What if 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people awakening? Supposedly the Buddha could teach, and the Buddha taught hundreds of disciples in one encounter. And it's reported that they all realized to a varying degree. And as the Buddha taught, he taught in a way where whatever level or capacity of understanding that an individual may have, they all understood. I wish I had this capacity. What would it have been like to be in one of those groves at the feet of the Buddha and to receive his blessings? For us, we have been at the feet of great enlightened masters who embody the enlightened qualities of all the Buddhas. And we have received and continue to receive their blessings. So now you must join by saying, sentient beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transcend them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transcend them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transcend them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. I hope you allowing it to settle into your body, your speech, your mind. that it sinks deep into the marrows of your bone. And it arises spontaneously, without fabrication. And as you just said, you have taken the vow of the Bodhisattva as though one has put a mark upon their body in this lifetime, and which you will strive to fulfill. When you have taken the refuge vow, that mark is upon your consciousness, and it will remain active as a motivator until it has been fulfilled. There's no coming and going and taking refuge. That's why it says it is better not than to. You don't fulfill and continue in this lifetime, then maybe next. No, maybe next. But why dally? Because there's no guarantee of the next. Right now, right this moment, awaken. Then check, is that truly my intent? Will I make this my intent and not be deceived by my own delusions? As it says, delusions are inexhaustible. Just look during the course of a day, how many delusionary thoughts that come and go our way. And in that delusion, we give them credibility, believing them to be our reality, when in exact, they are nothing but ghosts of falsity. I'm merely talking to myself. Perhaps look into your own mirror and come to your truths in which you will follow. Take a breath in again, please. Having taken that, then we know we have examples of the great bodhisattvas, and we see them before us, or as though they were before us. I practice this way. As I say the verses of the 8 sublime ones, I also take into account they're all sublime, whether they are arhats of the Theravada tradition, the Mahayana tradition, the Vahayana, it doesn't matter. Wherever there's a bodhisattva, may we become part of them. Om Nanze Nande Ranze Ndurupe Daji Dorje Swanga Sumba Ye Swange Dodan Gidom Babezo One La Jazo Dajo Daji So Dromega Bosade Domo Jambe Galo Gira Dandumba One La Gumba Daji Dabaje Dubo Daba Trabla Dadene Zunje Damje Namron Deba Yeje Juba Zala Bada De Zunjun Dumbe Daje Babe Wa Joa Juba Gila Zazalo Jamba Junor Malden Doje Jinre Zengon Gumbo Jambe Pa Zaying Nimbo Jumba Namba Za Namba Nimbo Bajo Gundo Muba Doje Barga Gundo Nubo Ride Namayi Jazen Nanam Daje Bajedo Chenja Jimba Gila Jazalo Renje Doje Daje Tsuginga Junjo Gundo Namo Gamo La Ninda Dundo Bundo Mariru Minyo Jazen Gugu Ludu Te Chenjen Doje Gide Dubajen Joje Gawa Chenjen Gige Ma Junjo Luwa Dinde Barewe Daje Lambo Gila Jazalo Sambo Jumbo Denjo Jimmy Bo Dendo Dundo Gambo Dundo Bagi Bundo Nijo Nando Jede Jede Guru Doje Nando Dundo Doje Jen Baro Dundo Doje Gandoje Sazon Jide Gede Taje Jede Goa Kela Tazano Sazo Tunjendo Wa Jumbo Gida Jumba Jumba Dundo Ye Dundo Bamba Zedo Jeju Daje Dele Bonzo So So again, in the Dzogchen, you can see, if you have, how they are standing. Then theater of mind, then I think after I say this, then they just open their hands and they emanate brilliant light. And as though they say, oh, we welcome you. Now there are more of us. Please come and join us. So the awakened Buddha nature mind will permeate throughout all of time and space for the benefit of all sentient beings. So I think, oh, thank you for taking me in. And I was looking for a place where I could begin. I was looking for a refuge, a place of peace and harmony, caring and love. Thank you so much. I will come. I am one of your kin. Take a breath in again, breathing out, and then we say the words of Shanti Diva. Chonam jele gebe jonde don sete tebe songola kumbu kanyamba janjan jambo jige chondo wa tata zamba ye sange dodangi domba janja nebo jige ba taba tane kabzoji jura nje danjebe sombe jenje dondo da zage dondo nege sombe zage do jeze namga namba da no wa jeze Jide Dorje nego ne towa derga sawa so jonam jele gele jon de bezon kula gumbo ganya ba jenjo jembo jige son jonam da samba ye sange dona yidon la jenjo nebo jige ba ta ba da de gazo ji sira ne de na de sombe jenje dono da sange dono nege Jeze namga namba da no wa jeze nego ba jeze doje nego ne to wa derga se wa so jona jele gele jon de do de bezo gula gumbo ganya ba jenjo jembo de zo do wa da gumba yi sanje do da hange don la janjo nebo jege ba da ba da ne ga doji Yera nanje danje be zombe nanje dondo da zange dondo nege de zombe jenzo zange do jeze nanga namba da nowa jeze nego ba jeze doje nego ne towa derga selva all phenomena arise from their causes. Their causes are explained by the Buddha. Cessation of these causes or taught thus by the great sage. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain and dispel the misery, suffering, and the causality of all infectious diseases in this world through loving kindness and compassion. So never forsake this last statement, the power of loving kindness and compassion. Whether things are good, whether they are what we term as bad, or in our indifference, that we don't waver or sway from always generating loving kindness and compassion. And perhaps we really don't know the strength of that until we come face to face with some adversity. Lama would say sometimes when things are quite pleasant, it is more insidious than when they're not, more difficult. Because when we're happy and just going along carefree, we forget everything. We act as though it will last forever. But not knowing that, we just throw ourselves in, and when it is gone, then we're devastated. As opposed to knowing that all is temporary, rising from its causes, as Sanchideva has just said. But in one way, it doesn't mean that it takes away from that experience or from the enjoyment, etc. In one way, it makes it more precious, don't you think? Because, you know, fully engage in the enjoyment or whatever arises from that particular experience, because we know it is fleeting and will not last. Our own precious life, again, all lives are precious. Every life is precious. Even the little insect in the water bowl floating around, trying, is my mother, must bless, put on the flower. Now, we have to be realistic, we know, but sometimes you must catch the spider and outside. I kick my mother out. Next lifetime, I take you in, but this, I don't know what type of spider you are, so you have to go. So you check as you go through the day. You will be challenged, perhaps in some way. And when that way of challenge arises from within, see how you respond. And as I said earlier, see how you begin. Can you bring forth truly the quality of loving kindness and compassion? Even in that subtle glance, when you look to see the other, oh, the loving eyes of compassion, embrace, in unity, you surrender to the other with this quality of loving kindness and compassion. I hope it's this way for you, as the Buddha taught and spoke in many sutras on loving kindness and compassion. Yes, we can talk about the emptiness of phenomena and the not being, and we can talk about non-attachment, and all of these very profound concepts that are within the tenets of the Buddhist pantheon. But to talk about them is one thing, to really embody them, starting at the most basic level. And one of the most basic levels, as it says, the four thoughts that turn the mind toward the Dharma, is that one really comes to a full recognition and understanding how precious all life is, and how precious the consciousness that permeates your body, speech, and mind at this moment. It's so fleeting, like a flash of lightning in the sky. It seems like it has been going on and on, but when we think about yesterday and where I am now, then as one poet, when thinking about where I was yesterday and where I am today, the preciousness and the fleeting of my life and how it's flying away, oh, the tears come to my eyes, and I wish I could recapture that which has gone awry. Anyway, recognize, enjoy this life. Lama Rinpoche would say, you enjoy the preciousness of this life, knowing the fleetingness of it, because the circumstances that brought it into being in this life may not come again, but through the merit and through the practices and our actions that we engage, may they be the transport that brings about the auspiciousness of circumstances in our lives to come. So the Buddha went through this many times, again and again and again, finally arriving at the full awakening. But perhaps the Buddha was very smart. The Buddha's aspect of the enlightened quality was already ever present. As he says, arriving at the fullness of the awakened mind, I was truly awakened because there was nothing to awaken to. Thus, the fully enlightened one arrived. So recognize these qualities ever present within and let the Buddha be our role model. Again, I like that word, so we can begin. Visualize Buddha is in front of you. White, red, blue, yellow rays are constantly coming, streaming in the 10 directions for the benefit of all sentient beings. They are all being blessed and cleansed and purified. Transform, transcendence, liberation. Tayata umane mane mahamana yazoha. 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 Umane mane mahamana yazoha. Umane mane mahamana yazoha. Umane mane Zomane mane mahamane yazoha. Mane mane mahamana yazoha. Mane mane mahamana yazoha. Mane mane mahamana yazoha. Mane mane Zomane mane mahamana yazoha. Mane mane mahamana yazoha. Mane mane mahamana yazoha. Mane mane mahamana yazoha. Again, we visualize that we're receiving the blessings in the form of those four lights. Then I have to digress just for a moment. So Nimala, I say this to Nimala, even the chicken, even the chicken have enlightened. Oh, I got the response I wanted because you were being too serious. Even the chicken has enlightened quality. Yeah? Okay, wonderful. Now you wake up. Okay, receiving the blessings of the Buddha coming like light. 1, 2, 3, 4. Open flower. Rest. Rest your mind in the radiant blessings of the Buddha. Again, like dream. If you had a dream of Buddha last night and the Buddha was speaking to you and blessing you, then you would, oh, so happy. But now you think you are awake, but we are still dreaming awake. So in my wakeful dream, I visualize the Buddha is with me. I am with the Buddha receiving the blessings. Rest in that. The crystalline lotus with the R in the middle has opened. Radiant quality, 10 directions going out. The quality of loving kindness and compassion embedded with your merit, your happiness, your fortune, and your joy or blessings. So blessings, your happiness, your fortune, your merit, but all loving kindness. 10 directions. Then when you breathe in, bluish black smoke coming into the crystal, which is not affected one iota. Imagine if we could funnel all of the causalities of all of the strife and all of the suffering and ignorance and anger and misplaced desire that is occurring throughout samsara, to cleanse and purify. Practice Tonglen in this way. We count the outgoing breath. in your mind's eye, again, visualize that your intention engaging in practice has been accomplished. All sentient beings, including oneself, have been cleansed, blessed, purified, transformed, and transcendence, liberation. And that the Buddha, which one visualizes above their head, dissolves into particles of light, again, like the glitter, just glitter raining down, falling down, entering into your body, speech, and mind, as though you recant to yourself. Every atom, every molecule is infused with this enlightened quality. That's the transformation, that you transform into the recognition of the intrinsic nature of your own Buddha nature realized mind. But that's not enough just to transform. You must transcend any grasping, aversion, or attraction, fully liberated for the benefit of others. Release the breath out. So again, last night, what to say to you today? Then I heard Lama Kazi starting sort of many years ago, trying to remember. So I thought I would just like to share with you what he said to me on many occasions that I feel is very pertinent to where we are now and have been. So the first thing that Lama Kazi said as we pursue the Dharma path that we really have to address is not the pursuing of the path itself, even though that is part of it. But he said, get your physical life together. Now, I know some of those who are more expressive than myself may say that in a different way. Get your physical life together. So what he was saying to us ruffians is, do you have a job? You pay your rent, you pay your bills. You're able to feed yourself and clothe yourself. Do you keep your house that hopefully you have in an orderly way? Do you keep your mind and your heart? All of those things is get your physical life together. And we see these days, granted with the conditions we have, trying to orchestrate some harmony and unity and sanity in our physical life is challenging. And as a result, we are maybe being a little irresponsible in how we go about doing that, because the challenges is so intense. The mind is so wild, the two are apart, they've spread it. So he says, after you have gotten your physical life together, then create harmony in your relationships. Whatever that means, create harmony in your relationships with your partner, with your lover, with your parents, with your boss, your co-workers, your community, etc. Maybe most important, yourself. So every day, many times, he would talk to me and also call me names and then tell me and show me how I was enslaved. That really, it was not the outer conditions that defined and determined my actions, but it was my own enslavement to my symbols and my concepts and to my thoughts that brought about my behaviors, my actions, that again created my reality. So ask yourself, do you have your physical life together? I've been asking myself in this particular phase, that my last hurrah, And laugh, laugh, last laugh. Do I have my physical life together? I have some work to do. Create harmony in your relationship. Do you have that? As you look at each other, those who have partners, even with your dog, with your cat, your etc. Do you have this harmony with in your relationship? After you have gotten those two somewhat together, even though it's a constant flux, then engage in a spiritual life with faith, devotion, and trust, starting with ourselves. It seems like we want to use, and Lama Kazi-Wat again says, especially, and not just in the West, but we want to use our spiritual pursuits and to go to the guru or to our master, please bless me, please remove this obstacle, may I have good luck, etc., etc., when really it has to come from ourselves with the foundation of the first two. So we're not using our pursuit of a spiritual life or the study and the practice of meditation and dharma in order to get our physical life together or to create harmony in our relationships. We cannot start there, at least that's what Lama Kazi would say. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but if you can't pay your rent and you can't eat and you're not clothed and then you can't really focus on those things unless you have taken up the life of an ascetic and going into a hermitage or going into a mountain cave somewhere. So he asked us to look at those things earnestly, which we tried our best to do, and I still attempt to do. Then the other part I looked at was just to maybe share personal experience. And I put a note and I thought about where we are now and various slogans and statements, etc., which should be there. We must address the inequities and the prejudice and hatred and injustice that is perpetrated through the various systems which we ourselves have created. So I put a note. I have lived in Alabama. I lived in Brooklyn. I lived in Oklahoma. I lived in Colorado. I lived in Wisconsin. And now I lived in Utah. In every one of those places, I can say some form of prejudice, some form of being ostracized, some being called a name, or being treated in some way because of a perception of color, education, social status, the car you drive, where you live, and so forth, and so on. At a very young age, probably in my teens, I know in my teens and maybe before, I always thought, I will be a kind, compassionate, loving human being. Is that you? Have you made that choice? There's no other way. No matter what may do, in all those places, I could recount many incidences that have impacted one way or another, but every time I will be a kind, compassionate, loving human being, first of all. When I was living in Brooklyn, one night, I told you this story before, I was at 14th Street, I think it's 14th Street in Canarsie or 14th Street, had to be Canarsie, couldn't be Canal. But there were a group of ruffians, definitely up to no good. And the longer I lingered, which I probably had no business being out that late at night anyway, but I was trying to get back home. I know they were up to seeing what they could take from me, because they definitely weren't going to give anything to me. Luckily, the train came, and I was gearing up for violence that probably would have ensued. But I have a note, getting on the train at 14th Street in Lower Manhattan, I made a choice. Will you follow the path of good, or will you follow the path of violence? And I had one foot on the train, one foot in the train as the doors opened, and I said to myself, I will follow the path of goodness. And I remember that moment very distinctly to this very day, and that is my choice. The other thing that Lama Kazi went through, and for me, these are the direct teachings. He talked about genre. What genre and who am I? When he said what genre, what role defines you? And do others define our worth? We allow others to define your worth, he said. You're caught between the vice of being inferior and looking to those who are superior. You're caught in the vice of wanting to be superior and fearing and negating your feelings of being inferior. And then he would point it out by calling me some interesting names, which I won't go into. So we allow it. Justification of self. We are the ones, he said. You must define your worth in this universe. And he says we're caught in the genre, not gender. We're caught in the genre of various things. Like I see a mechanic's expertise extraordinaire. I see healthcare workers. I see professors and artists. I see psychologists, psychiatrists. I see a writer. I see someone who is passionate about the training of the body and bring all of these things are things we do, not necessarily things that you aren't. What am I? I'm a human being. And I'm a human being. So I thought about, yeah, we can practice and mumble and blah, 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 and visualize, but we've been doing it for decades. Has it changed? How many, the industry, and we could say industry of Dharma is worldwide. Have we changed according to that industry? So check. Do others define your existence in this universe? Do others bring about your self-worth? Do they designate who you are by what you do? And do not see at the basic level, we're all just human beings. So this getting caught in genre, then gender. So yes, some of you are male, some of you are female. How many times have you been male and how many times have you been female? If we adhere to that way of thinking, we have no idea. In which realm of samsara have you existed from the highs to the lows? Again, we have no idea. And in terms of we define ourselves by male, we define ourselves by female. And these days, we define ourselves by race and color. How many times have you been white? How many times have you been black? How many times have you been Asian or Aborigine or so forth and so on? How many times have you been the spider that you put out or the little bug caught in the water that you tried to save but went down the sink anyway and you felt so bad? I hope. So we don't know, but we have caught and wrapped ourselves in the strands of gender and genre, wrapped ourselves so tightly we cannot even move. We define ourselves through education, Rinpoche said. We define ourselves through profession, where we live, even how we look. In my community, I remember my coming up, she told me, you stood in the wrong line. What is she talking about? I shouldn't say this, but it was to me, you stood in the line where you got the wrong hair. Some of you got that nappy hair. I mean no offense to anyone, please. And some of you got that straight hair. Now, that has nothing to do with color, because there's a whole lot of people of different genders and race and color who have all kind of hair. But growing up in my neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, where the men would smooth their hair back with this chemical compound so it would be straight. Well, to these days, how many objects do you have to deal with just your hair? Me, I cut it off, but I still have these objects to do that, to cut it off, to straighten it, to curl it. Now, it's so insane. You have to laugh. So this is what Lama Kaisi kept putting out is one, be a good human being. And it appears we have forgotten that we're all just human beings. That's all. And then everything descends down. The human race, human beings who happen to be male or female or white or black or Asian, Hispanic or Latino, etc. But somehow we, in the fixity of these categories, of these roles that we play, and we cannot escape, we're bound by them. And when we look at the other, we only see differences, as opposed to looking at the other and seeing sameness. Going to His Holiness, which now is becoming more and more vocal and more impactful and prudent in what is being said. I like to think this also as I was reading. I always try to create a ground of friendliness with people. At least I hope I do, and if I don't, please tell me. Whenever I meet someone new, for example, I feel no need to introduce, no need for introductions. This person is obviously another human being. Maybe sometime in the future, technological advances may mean that I could confuse a robot for a human being. But up to now, this has never happened. Again, looking at this equipment that we now have to converse. I have a laptop and I have a monitor. And those two inanimate objects, which reflect animate objects, easily talk to one another. Master Men, he says, I can plug my laptop, this iPod, into my TV, and they will talk to each other. And then I thought, human beings have created this technology that can speak to one another. Why can't we do that? We see someone else in the name, we hate them. We see them, we prejudge them. We see them, I don't want to talk to them. We see them, I want to hurt them. We see them, I want to rob them. I see them, I want to take from them. I see them, I think what they want to take from me. But these technologies, they don't do that. Yes, they cause us problems, but how is it they so freely talk to each other and communicate to each other, and we have such difficulty in doing so? So when I read this and I go, maybe we should be like a robot. But then again, we would only create more problems. I see a smile. I see some teeth and eyes and so on, and I recognize that person as a human being. On that basis, on the emotional level, we are the same. On the emotional level, we all cry. It's like in The Merchant of Venice. We all bleed. We all have sorrow. We all love. We all have these human emotions. We are the same. And basically on the physical level, we are the same, except for coloring, gender, etc. We can go on and on. But whether Westerners have yellow hair or blue eyes or white hair or dark skin, etc., light skin, doesn't really matter. The important thing is that we are all the same at the human level. Now, His Holiness says we're all the same at the emotional level, and we are. With that conviction, I feel that the other person is a human brother or sister, or like my relative, or like my mother or father, and approach them spontaneously. In most cases, the other person immediately responds accordingly and becomes a friend. Sometimes I fail, and then I have the liberty to react according to the circumstances. I would say, for myself, I try to take a step back and approach it again as a human being who is trying to be a friend. Those places that I mentioned earlier in which I had lived, I've had to do that because I found it to be one, the human thing to do. And no matter what color or education or place or gender or genre you exist in, I think if you come with kindness and compassion and love as a human being, the other human being will respond to you regardless of what they may harbor at a lesser level. It's not always like that, but I have found it to be so. So having said that, please invoke Guru Rinpoche, the Buddha of our time. May the wisdom and knowledge of being a human being erupt or be aroused and blossom and bloom in each and every one of us this moment so brightly that it starts a ripple in time and space that affects the whole human race. Om Urgyen Samten Ling Gonpa. Kudu ngando mabu gege zazo dadu ge jenje loje zazo guru bema zide o mge juji na zan bema ge za no la da zen duji gudu bema june zazo dra kudu ngando mabu gege zazo dadu ge jenje loje zazo guru bema Ma o jojo toge gege tangam donye jojo gaga nebe kan jojo dojo de wa jibo nanga sendo doje dore me lama juge gola so wa de borye me ma jone la so wa de je dorge jumbe tangam so konjo nyo tan nyo den ye jo wa jibe doji de ra ne jo jo mama lo jojo gola so wa de borye me ma jone la so Meje de me singam to doji tempo to we don la jang gam la gam de ge don de de da ma jo da dum sung ge na ma de be gu la su wa de mo ni be ma je de la so wa de kun don do sung ge da je da je be ma ge da de da du na du don ga do to ka da na ma na la so wa de je le je be do de don do je nom do be do ya jan na do be to sange gode to be no chemba reme uzo chemba to wade te jen gunji jola te se to reme uzo rin den to zo so osa don je namge namjo ba je me lembe je la so wade to zo gunge be ma je ni ge do bo go go sange lembe den den kunzo sembe la so wade bo me to ye ge ko na to zo sange goje go do ge ran zen go do be so we Lama na la so ba de Riro menjogi yogi bodando do so sange goji go go ye renzem go so de ba so we Lame nam la so ba de yo wa can do yo da na ma do me jogi ban ha lo jo jen so da na jo wan jo ne do ji jin jin go fang do to so oh ma to visualize the subtle body in A I U Re 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 O Anga Sada Sada Baba 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 Yawara Shaka Omedana Hitubarava Hitubagata Hayo Ataganza Yunarova Hipamin Baha Samana Soha Badla Samaya Za Bam Ritsa Ramani Baba Daye Soha Zubadra Samaya Za Bam Badra Amrita Kundele Hana Ranjing only also the Lama da Dezo Bebe Ponte Toge Gabo Donjon Dute Gadio Nezawa Mebe Goa Don Yenanga Baza Sama Sa Jugna Randra appears. Sange Dodan Zoge Tonama Genjo Badu Dandiga Daji Zenzo Yebe Todan Jola Benze Sange Tobajo, Sange Dodan Togi Tonama, Gentle Badu, Daniga, Daji Zenzo Bezo Nange, Jola Benze Sange Toba, Sange Dodan Togi Tonama, Gentle Badu, Daniga, Daji Zenzo Bezo Nange, Jola Benze Sange Toba, Za Bam, Zoje Narala Demba. Then we acknowledge all of the wonderful things and the blessings in the various energetic patterns that come into our life that allow for wonderful things to happen. But we also acknowledge those obstacles that appear, which we give various names to. So we don't vanquish anything, but we are in one way making offerings to those that help. And we're also making maybe appeasement of liberation to those that distract. Sudo Zarva Dama Zode Zodo no Rinpoche Dara Buru Mumbo Bunzo Zono Dajan Gozo Jembo Oma Oma Umi Bade Sapa Viva Zazamaza Zada Nabada Jede de Banata Namo Zabada Gaba Yumiju Mugube Saba Dadogate Safara Nekamasoa Namo Zabada Gaba Yumiju Mugube Saba Datomugate Safara Nekamasoa Namo Zabada Gaba Yumiju Mugube Saba Datomugate Safara Nekamasoa Gada Mane La Dono Tembo Yudun Dodo Dado Deje Gede Dado Goda Dana Ne La Dono Tembo Yugun Dodo Dado De Gede Dado Dana Ne Dodo Tembo Dada Yugun Dodo Dado Kume Pate Yari Gata Zombaja Mahazre Haragaru Dene Doji Turga Guru Luze Ram Yam Umzualva Zudo Zarva Dhamma Zude Dume Dende Dende Rinpoche Ninyi Jengeje We Nondo Dharma Doro Mumbo Homso Topo Dojen Gozo Jembo Zoma Hu Oh, ma, Sara Butaraga, Om Sabamigin, Namo Zavada, Bayamiju Mugube, Saba Sukate, Sapa Raman, Grihana, Idam Bavinda, Tayeso, Om Sabamigin, Namo Zavada, Bayamiju Mugube, Saba Takamokate, Sapa Rana, Idam Grenagam, Grihana, Idam Bavinda, Tayeso, Om Sabamigin, Namo Zavada, Bayamiju Mugube. Saba Takamokate, Sapa Rana, Idam Grenagam, Grihana, Idam Bavinda. Tayeso. Samten Ling Gonpa, Dorje, don't get me bed and bad and bad and mid the walk with you and then they said, number good. Sabo and Dorje, Jamba, Tejo in Gonje, the body. You what that and Jay, Sanje, Toba, yes, actually, Puja, Dorje made those rebellions in the Zambagi, Sankers and the middle over here, don't get those and that about you. You don't run the mandala, better tire, Saji, Puja, rebellions in the Zambagi, Sankers and the middle over here, don't get those and that about you, and I remember mandala, another tire, Saji, Puja, rebellions in the Zambagi, Sankers and the middle over here, don't get that about you, Om Badrazada Samaya Manovalaya Sudogaya Navova, Sudogaya Navova, Samaya Satu Drupnarandro appears. Vadra Samaya Sa Sri Nunje Nunjo Nunje Gozo Gide Una Toje Jinje Delase Drupna Ranjo La Sovade Chinandova Jinje Jin Nanjo Bambe Gunje Jin Pradra Dentro Dorje Padra Samaya Chita. And as I said earlier, 10 Drupnarandros, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000, covering the whole planet, permeating throughout all of space. The deity representing the ultimate nature of loving kindness and compassion, joyousness, and equanimity. Please come and be present. Om Bhadra Argam Bhatan Dupe Dupe Aloge Gande Niwade Shata Rupa Shata Gande Rasha Sheva Ye Dharma Data Buddha Kaye. You are the deity, just as you are, Rinpoche would say. The visualization of the Re and the radiant light of loving kindness and compassion going out for the benefit of all sentient beings. Place your focus on the heart space from which you generate this quality out. Omane Beme Hungry, Omane Beme Hungry, Omane. Omane Beme Hungry, Omane Beme Hungry, Omane Beme Hungry, Omane. Somane Beme Hungry, Omane Beme Hungry, Omane Beme Hungry. Omane Beme Hungry, Omane Beme Hungry. Let me just pause there for a moment. Masterman, can I have 15 minutes? My watch here is long time.
Yes, we do have 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you. We do the Dhammapalas through the essential precious vessel. Namo Guru Be, Namo Guru Be, Namo Guru Be. Om Sri Denda Herada Om Be. Dene Bajan, Joine Ramyangam, Dorje, Dorje, Yejon, Dojo, Tanze, Yeje, Yeme, Dorje, Neze, Namye, Dorje, Guru, Se, Ram, Om, 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 Sri, Goye, Ose, Doye, Yeje, Yeje, Doje, 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 Namaya Zadua, Umbadu Zadu Namaya, Manu Padaya, Jidu Naboa, Zudogaya, Naboa, Zudogaya, Naboa, Anaratu Naboa, Zidagama Zudame, Zedum Sidum Guru, Samaya Zadu, Sri 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 Navadanye Donye Jinjun. Seba medo no la jemedo zada no we no wa bajeza pema juna nindo do wa da donga bo zada do wa me so wa da jor ganja bajezo jenje la jenje medo o mama rene je wa dari guru padma toria bunda jana anyet side O Magani Zavadai, Guru Dharma Juna Nana Anye Zede, Sri, O Mama Veni Zamadari, Guru Dharma Juna Anye Zede, Sri, Badruzada Zamaya, Manodaya, Badruzada Denova, Anarada Nabova, Dovaziri Nebrea, Zaragama Sarada Badruna, Nimuzovan, Devana, Samaya, Badruzada Denova, Didu Nabova, Dudogaya, Sidum Guru Home, Samaya Satu. 예, 두스승계 그러는 도제 그러는 저 정보자 바제군서 두두도 보서 로바도서 진제라도서 지능서에 받을 저와 당 삼마도게 저바 진제도 두스승계 그러는 도제 그러는 저 정보자 바제군서 두두도 보서 로바도서 진제라도서 지능서에 받을 저와 당 삼마도게 저바 진제도 두스승계 그러는 도제 그러는 저 정보자 바제군서 두두도 보서 로바도서 진제라도서 지능서에 받을 저와 당 삼마도게 저바 진제도. May you all have long life. May you all have blessed lives. May your obstacles be few, and may your joys and happiness and loves be many. May you accomplish your intention to fully recognize for the benefit of all sentient beings in this life. Hong, 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 ah, ah. Rest your mind. Let it be as though you have had a heavy pack with many burdens upon your back. Up the pathway of the mountain you have traveled and arrived at the top. Removing your sack from your back, you sit out and look and view the vista. Your mind is wide and vast and spacious, luminous as you look out and rest. And again, breathing out. Om Sute Singe, Ransinge Bubula, Nibeka to Natin by Ye, Timberland, Banjo, Bana, Zabet, Zinkan, Zandonia, Dan, Mazek, gradually. Totem gazo trinde Urgye. Lumega nega so Tenjoji Gambo Gonjo Mano Rinpoche Chepe Mije Gato Nandene Lachen Rudo Nanjen Tachen So Baden Lame Gonze Dambadang Yam Yo Wadi Ge Yo Wai Dazuma Zanza Dandone Nondo Zange Jolato Bajo Tembe Bagu Lamne Shependen Dizinge Pusutin Yo Lagap Dembeno Dando Dajo Bagi Temba Yo Ring the Bedashi Thupten Sepe Tunje Non Jemba Sedu Tembe Nande Jembe Lenzume Lame Demba Zede Baze Dudu Zungu Nezunguji Junzo Junjo Rinpoche Mage Banamge Guji Geba Nambande Baye Kunde Gundu Bebuzo Gazo Daye Dungwe Dundu Goyen Duju Sumbe Shidojo Nadra Beba Beme Gunzo Tumba Randa Tashi Dale Tayata Unga de Gade Beraga de Berazunga de Botizoa, Daido Monga de Gade Beraga de Berazunga de Botizoa, Daido Monga de Gade Beraga de Berazunga de Botizo. So my theme to myself is for my master, be a good human being first, and not being shackled by genre or gender or all the various roles that we play, that we exhibit every day, kindness and compassion and love. And as someone said, also respect and forgiveness. And we see the sameness in ourselves and others. We allow that. That we take the responsibility to get in order our life, our emotional life, our spiritual life. And that we look upon each sentient being, even the smallest little insect worm, is my mother, is my relative. How many times have I been in the same position? As you go through the day, see what your preferences are, not your prejudice. Am I being a human being? And am I being kind? Am I being gracious and compassionate and caring and love? I will do the same thing and join you in this practice today. Have a wonderful afternoon. Laugh, play, and contemplate and enjoy the preciousness